Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, February 14th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting live from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in Washington this morning and spent his first day preparing for his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Throughout the day, he held discussions with Ron Dermer, Israel's ambassador to the United States, and other officials to ensure no gaps remain ahead of tomorrow's highly anticipated meeting. Facing pressure from his own government ministers at home, who are calling for the annexation of Judea and Samaria, Netanyahu emphasized he intends to steer the historic alliance between the two countries for the benefit of national interests and the Israeli public. At the same time, the Prime Minister has said that he and Trump see eye to eye on the dangers in the region as well as the opportunities. Among the issues expected to be discussed with Trump are the Iranian nuclear threat, the situation in Syria, settlement construction, and the Israel-Palestinian conflict. This evening, Netanyahu will meet with U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. During his three-day visit, Netanyahu will also meet with Vice President Mike Pence and U.S. senators. The government may consider conducting polygraphs in order to prevent leaks to the press from high-level meetings held by the Prime Minister. This, according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Chief of Staff, Yoav Horowitz. Accompanying Netanyahu on his trip to Washington, Horowitz told reporters such steps may be necessary in order to ensure that information about internal debates on sensitive security decisions don't find their way into the media. The move comes after details of a 4-hour security cabinet meeting convened by Netanyahu to formulate his policy ahead of his trip to Washington were leaked to the press. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump's national security advisor, Michael Flynn, has resigned after admitting to discussing the possibility of lifting U.S. sanctions on Russia with Russian officials before Trump took up office. Flynn had reportedly promised U.S. President Mike Pence that he did not raise the issue, but transcripts of intercepted conversations he held with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. showed otherwise. Such contacts could be viewed as a potential violation of the law that bans private citizens from engaging in foreign policy, and the conversations could also open him up to blackmail. After tendering his resignation, Flynn admitted he had inadvertently briefed the vice president-elect and others with incomplete information. In the meantime, retired General Keith Kellogg has been named acting national security advisor until President Trump determines who will fill the position. More than 600 rabbis and cantors have signed an open letter against the Trump administration's appointment of David Friedman as the next ambassador to Israel. The letter called on the U.S. president to withdraw the nomination or for the Senate to reject it if Trump was unwilling to take such action. The group expressed anger over Friedman's past vocal support for Israel's settlement building. The campaign to block Friedman's appointment is being led by J Street, an organization Friedman has blasted in the past, saying that its members were worse than capos. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee is due to hold a confirmation hearing for Friedman on Thursday, one day after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets with Trump. Friedman is an Orthodox Jew who represented Trump as his lawyer for 15 years. The newly elected leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, 55-year-old Yahya Sinwar, was successfully treated for a brain tumor while serving a 22-year-long sentence in Israel for his involvement in terror. Sinwar was among 1,000 Palestinians released in the October 2011 prisoner swap for soldier Gilad Shalit. Since his return to Gaza, he has devoted much of his time to accumulating political power within the Hamas movement. One of the founders of the Hamas military wing, Izzeddin al-Qassam, he is believed to have invested much of his time in rebuilding the terrorist organization's arsenal, preparing it for the next conflict against Israel. Sinwar has been described as unpredictable, cruel, and brutal, and is considered to be one of the strongest people in the Gaza Strip. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has canceled her country's participation in a joint summit scheduled to take place in Jerusalem in May. The Chancellor cited the upcoming elections in Germany in September this year as the reason for pulling out. However, unnamed German and Israeli officials quoted by the media said the reason lay in the controversial settlement regularization bill passed in the Knesset last week that calls to retroactively legalize homes and settlements built on Palestinian land in Judea and Samaria. According to reports, Germany was outraged over the law and is considering a number of initiatives in public and diplomatic channels to express the country's dismay over the bill. John Bercow, the British Speaker of the lower house of Parliament, kicked off his trip to Israel yesterday with a visit to the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial Museum. Bercow, the first Speaker of the British Parliament to visit the Jewish state, also met with his Israeli counterpart, Yuli Edelstein. Today he will attend a series of meetings and join the Young Knesset this week, where youth will participate in committees and plenum discussions. Bercow made headlines back home when he publicly vetoed the idea of U.S. President Donald Trump addressing the Houses of Parliament, saying lawmakers must oppose racism and sexism. And at this hour, President Reuven Rivlin is slated to speak at the Knesset in honor of the Parliament's 68th birthday today. Under this banner, the Young Knesset Week, students and school pupils from across the country arrived at the House of Legislation to participate in special mock Knesset sessions, including committee and plenum discussions. One of the pupils will be elected as speaker and will preside over the debates. Each pupil will be allotted 1 minute to have their say. Knesset Speaker Yuli Edelstein took the opportunity to blast fellow lawmakers for undermining the reputation of the Parliament by petitioning the High Court of Justice on a variety of laws they may disagree with. The Israeli human rights NGO HaMoked, otherwise known as the Center of Defense of the Individuals, receives millions of shekels in funding from European governments. This according to a recent report released by the Im Tirtzu movement, affiliated with the right, which states between the years 2012 to 2016, HaMoked received over 15 million shekels from the European Union, United Nations, and 11 European governments, including Belgium, Sweden, Holland, Norway, and Britain. According to Im Tirtzu, the funds were used by leftist NGO to petition the Supreme Court on behalf of 48 families of Palestinian terrorists responsible for murdering some 50 Israelis, including appealing decisions to demolish terrorist homes. Matan Peleg, the CEO of Im Tirtzu, said the report emphasizes the need for the country's judicial system to adopt a new approach in dealing with political NGOs that serve the agendas of foreign governments. Im Tirtzu describes itself as an extra-parliamentary movement that works to strengthen and advance the values of Zionism in Israel. Police released to house arrest 3 suspects detained for questioning over the collapse of a crane in Bat Yam yesterday, in which 4 people were injured, including a 9-year-old girl. Police said the investigation is ongoing and shut down the building site where the crane operated. The incident occurred late yesterday afternoon when the crane fell onto a boulevard in a residential area, crushing a car and damaging other vehicles as it crashed to the ground. The crane operator, who was thrown out of the cabin, was seriously injured, suffering from multiple fractures. 3 others suffered light to moderate injuries. In recent weeks, a number of crane operators have resigned from their jobs, complaining they are often forced to work on faulty equipment. The operators plan to form a union to protect them from the hazards of the job. Students across the country took part today in a nationwide earthquake drill conducted by the Homefront Command. Under the slogan that an open space is the safest space, soldiers accompanied pupils as they ran for cover and learned what to do in the event of such a natural disaster. The IDF spokesperson's unit emphasized that today's drill was planned in advance as part of the Army's yearly training exercises. Turning to the world of science and innovation, an electronic device developed by Israeli researchers at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology aims to diagnose diseases by smelling a patient's breath. The non-invasive procedure is called the nanose. Researchers say the system has the ability to differentiate between 17 types of diseases, including cancer and Parkinson's. In a recent clinical study conducted on more than 1,400 patients, the device had an 86% success rate in diagnosing diseases. With several companies already expressing interest in the technology, the researchers predict the device will cost between $4 to $15 and expressed hope that it will be used on a broader scale in healthcare systems.
When a disease starts to evolve in the human body, it starts to emit some compounds, which we call them volatile molecules, namely molecules which have an ability to volatile into the blood. And once they are in the blood, these molecules are very tiny and very vaporized, so they can just diffuse into the blood, and they can exist either throughout the exhaled breath, or you can find them in the urine or feces, or you can detect them in the skin.
So our main idea is to try and imitate what's going on in nature. So like we can take a canine, a dog, and train it to scent the smell of drugs, of explosive, or a missing person, we're trying to do it artificially. And we can do that by using these nanomaterials, and we build these nanomaterial-based sensors. And of course, there are many advantages, and one of them, of course, is going all the way from sensors big as this to really small devices like this that have on them 8 sensors, and which can be incorporated to systems like this, or even smaller.
Israel has a representative at the upcoming Eurovision Song Contest in Kiev in May. Imri Ziv was selected last night by viewers from across the country during a live broadcast of the Keshet reality show The Next Star on Channel 2. Ziv, who has accompanied Israeli representatives as a backup singer at the 2 previous Eurovision contests, beat top contender Diana Golby by a number of points and was crowned winner by the viewers at home as well as the panel of judges. It is still not clear which song Ziv will perform. This year's song extravaganza will take place in the Ukraine, where Israel previously came in 5th place during the 2005 Eurovision when it was represented by singer Shiri Maimon. Israel is this time guaranteed a slot in the second semifinals, set to take place on May 11th, with the final scheduled for the 13th of May. And here's something just in time for Valentine's Day, which is marked today. They say that diamonds are a girl's best friend, so if you're still seeking a gift for your loved one, perhaps you should visit the 6th International Diamond Exhibit, currently on display at Israel's Diamond Exchange in Ramat Gan. Some 400 buyers from 30 countries are on hand to showcase over 200 rough and polished glittering diamonds from Israel and abroad.
One of the greatest challenges is trying to make diamonds relevant to the millennials, which is actually the new generation who we must appeal to, who don't know a diamond is forever, didn't grow up with that.
In local money matters, shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the numbers. The IBA weather team says temperatures will remain unseasonably cold tomorrow, with showers tapering off towards the afternoon and will resume and intensify in the evening. Here are the highs and lows at home and abroad. And that's all for this newscast. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.